it's not until you find community that you can really understand imagine yourself staying here.
Yeah.
Having grown up here and having had that lens my whole life, and never feeling that sense of belonging until I'd say the last few years, I guess. Obviously, the pandemic and George Floyd's murder, it sparked a lot. The one thing, I guess, one of the silver linings that it sparked was, I think in Burlington, there's a stronger community sense that I feel like I feel lucky and honored to be a part of now. And that's the thing that keeps me here as well. So to your point, building community, and through that, community healing was a concept that you said, which actually I'd love if you wanted to talk a little bit more about what community healing means, especially given what you referenced before, there aren't that many practitioners of color. And then given that there aren't a huge amount of resources, how do we as a community end up healing together?
Yeah. I think about that a lot, just being a trauma psychologist, because what, the research shows us, and I say research in quotes because, it's the people, the stories that we know about, right? And so there's a lot that we could unpack there. But over 80% of adults will experience at least one traumatic event in their lifetime. And so, there are so many people that are walking around with trauma, and normalizing that, talking about it is important, but recognizing that for many communities of color, the trauma doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in community. And so, what restorative justice practices teach us is that trauma is happening in a group and in a community, the healing has to mirror that. And so that to me, really informs that work. And that's kind of how I would answer that is, yes, we may not have a large amount of practitioners of color in this community or in this state. And healing can look so many different ways. So what about the paraprofessionals? What about the faith or spiritual leaders? What about teachers? Other community leaders, they're healers too. And so just really kind of broadening our understanding of what it takes to be a healer, but what that even means. When I was in grad school, I was an international affairs fellow, and one of the projects that we worked on that I just loved was, it was an infrastructure and capacity building program in Rwanda. And so we really partnered with the Rwandan government, but also the paraprofessionals and the faith and religious leaders to really reimagine what healing would look like. And what it was meeting with and hearing from the teachers, from the community leaders, from the faith leaders. It wasn't the people that held the most prestigious role or had the most education necessarily. It was the folks that were in the community that also experienced the trauma too. And I think that can apply to our country and our state as well.